Yeah, and the first presentation will come from Robin Harder, presenting the Egesta Base project. So we have to be very strict on time, so you got 2 minutes.
Thank you, Christian.
The floor is yours.
Thanks. So I'm presenting the project End of Wastewater on behalf of a team of Swedish researchers who would like to make research in the field more discoverable. So our starting point is what you see in the left bubble, the papers per year, that the research output in the field is increasingly hard to navigate, especially in the last 10 years. It has been literally exploding, and it's also hard to keep track of. So we aim to, or we feel that there's a need for a robust and comprehensive mapping and synthesis. And the way we plan to tackle this is to build an evidence database and an evidence explorer, which you can see in the top middle. And to the right, I have some screenshots about what we currently envision this platform to look like. So we have 4 views: a document view where you can easily find papers by, say, you're interested in urine or sewage as a starting point, or you might be interested in ash as an output or struvite. You can filter these documents. There's also a heat map functionality where you can see like where we have a lot of research and where there might be gaps. There's also a map functionality to find research and research groups internationally who work with certain topics in terms of technology or products. Currently, the idea is that we look into research on technologies, but also on fertilizers and the use of fertilizer products, but also sustainability assessments and work on the acceptance and attitudes. So that's the scope that we have in mind right now. We just released the website that we have developed. It's a very early beta version at the moment, so please be advised that a lot of papers are missing and the visualizations are experimental. But you can on the link gestabase.net you can have a look at it. And also we want to make this as best as possible in terms of meeting user needs. So we opted for a co-design approach, and right now we have the first survey out that people that might think this is useful to them can help us define what would they like to see in this platform, what are the topics that are of most interest, but also what would, in terms of how we could present things on the platform, what would be most useful. So you're welcome to take the survey and check out the website. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Robin. So then we move on directly to the next presentation, Life and Rich, presented by Adriana Romero Lestido. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending to this presentation. My name is Adriana Romero, and I would like to present to you the Life and Rich project. Life and Rich project stands for Enhanced Nitrogen and Phosphorus Recovery from Wastewater and Integration in the Value Chain, and it is funded by the European Life Program. So let me invite you to click this link and visit the project's website, where you can access the details about the project objectives and results, as well as the partners and stakeholders involved. Let me tell you that the main objective of Life and Rich project is to demonstrate the technical, economic, and environmental feasibility of a new value chain based on the recovery of nutrients from wastewater treatment plants and its valorization in agriculture. In other words, Life and Rich offers a link between wastewater treatment facilities and the agricultural sector by producing biofertilizers and promoting circular economy. Today, I will show you how struvite and ammonium nitrate are obtained within the project. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here you can see the process configuration that has been implemented in Murcia Este wastewater treatment plant in Spain. First, an elutration process has been installed full scale, concentrating the phosphorus removed from the water line in the supernatant of the primary thickener. The supernatant rich in phosphorus is fed to the crystallization unit, where struvite is produced from the phosphate and ammonia present in the current and an external source of magnesium. For ammonium nitrate production, the centrates go through an absorption with halides, where ammonium is adsorbed. Then a mixture of sodium hydroxide and salt desorbs and concentrates the ammonium and regenerates the zeolites. And finally, the ammonium concentrated goes through a membrane contactor and forms ammonium nitrate on the other side of the membrane. Next slide, please. Here you can see the pilot plants for struvite and ammonium nitrate production, and also what the struvite produced looks like. For the struvite prototype, a continuous operation with supernatant of primary thickener is producing about 5 to 6 kilograms per day of struvite, with a P recovery high in the 85% and a P concentration in the outlet of the reactor of crystallization lower than 15 milligrams per liter. Efforts are now being put on optimizing chemicals dosing for magnesium sourcing and for pH control. And regarding the ammonium nitrate production, around 40 liters per week of the salt are being produced, with an end recovery of around 70%. And currently, total nitrogen content of the ammonium salt is 7%, 50% coming from centrates and 50% from nitric acid, while aiming now to reach a 20% as in a commercial fertilizer. And last, both biofertilizers are metal-free, and struvite content of total organic carbon complies with quality requirements, and also neither significant difference on organoleptic characteristics nor metals have been found in the vegetables grown with these biofertilizers produced, that are tomatoes and broccoli. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Adriana. So the next speaker will be Francesco Fatone to present a smart plant.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Smart plant was a innovation action with about 10 million budget and 27 partners, which involved about 20 companies and several universities. And about nutrient management, we were integrating 6 existing wastewater treatment plants with different technologies in different treatment stages, with the aim of recovery nutrients and also organic resources, and finally producing minor fertilizers and biofertilizers, in particular recovering ammonium and phosphorus from tertiary treatment, also in order to achieve very low limits that are currently in place, for example, in the UK. Phosphorus recovery as struvite and phosphorus rich sludge through side stream biological content removal. You can go to the next slide. How much we were able to recover? Well, finally, our demonstration plants were operated for more than 2 years in operation. And in fact, all of them were submitted for environmental technology verification, and 2 of them were accepted. Other 2 are still under evaluation. Others were not eligible because of the pilot scale. So what you can see here is our evidence-based results that in terms of nutrients, we're demonstrating what we can recover as average per person per year. And these were used to finally deliver the business plan. The challenge of Smart Plant was to address the energy efficiency and greenhouse gas emissions, so the water, energy, food, carbon nexus, by also targeting sludge reduction and in parallel to recover resources and nutrients in order to have the materials recovery as added value that is any way of interest for utilities that are at the same time saving energy and reducing the carbon footprint. Next slide. We were able to finally deliver, as I mentioned before in the plenary session, policy recommendations, because still the end of waste is a major issue, and still legislation is a barrier. And to deliver these policy recommendations, we were also analyzing the potential market and how the readiness of the market. It's very interesting to see here how if we have considered the time to market and the market size, very often, especially when we are working in small, medium treatment plants, we have to address niche market because the economy of scale will take time. Will take time for the merge and organization of utilities, but calcium phosphate and also NPK biofertilizer after use of safe pH sludge can be of high interest by combining side stream BNR with secondary BNR. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francesco. So the next presentation is about peer recovery and recycling from dairy processing by Jay Lee. I hope I pronounced it right. The floor is yours. Hello. So if there's no one to present, then I propose to jump to the next one. The RecoPhos Scale-Up project presented by Christoph Brunak.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you here today. Very short overview of the process or progress we're making here with RecoPhos, the pyrometallurgical process and the inductively heated reactor using graphite cubes and producing P4 that is converted to phosphoric acid. We have just recently completed the scale up to a 50 kilograms per hour plant, which the construction of which will start this year. And we have also worked on the optimization of the energy input and reducing it to very low levels, with the only energy source being electricity, and therefore also posing a lot of potential regarding renewable energy use. Next slide, please. These are the results that we have already achieved and confirmed. Phosphorus recovery rates in the thermodynamic evaluations are even higher. We have a full reduction of the complete phosphorus input and then a removal rate of over 90% theoretically and over 80 to 85% in experiments and validated, which is what is becoming more interesting to us is the lithium-ion battery recycling that can occur in this reactor concept with the induction coils and the carbon cubes, where we can gasify lithium and also recover it as, for example, a carbonate, and then use these synergies, the same process. And of course, the steel making slag processing in this reactor is also still being worked on. Next slide, please. For the specific sewage sludge ash recycling project, the scale up to 500 kilograms per hour as a reference plant in Vienna is on its way. We're starting a project in the beginning of next year with the consortium that is named here, a large process plant engineer in Austria, and Vienna Energy as the first reference plant site in an EU project to be completed by 2024. Thank you very much.
Not really saying that much.
Thank you, Christoph. If the reflow presentation is not there, then we would move on to the presentation of the Hydrosa project presented by Kostas Matsopoulos.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you for the coordination and for introducing me. I will say a few words about Hydrosa project, which is a Horizon 2020 project that is being coordinated by the National Technical University of Athens and consists of a 28 partners consortium of universities, SMEs, and stakeholders from all over Europe. Our project aims to set up, demonstrate, and optimize on-site innovative nature-based solutions for the management of a wide variety of non-conventional water streams like wastewater, rainwater, atmospheric vapor water, seawater, and groundwater. We can go to the next slide, please. The Hydrosa concept can be briefly illustrated in this slide. Hydrosa demonstrates at a large scale in 3 Mediterranean islands the feasibility and sustainability of innovative low-cost water treatment technologies to recover, among others, fresh water, nutrients, and energy from water. We have a sum of 6 demo cases. We call them Hydros 1 till Hydro 6. Among them, hydros 1 and 2 refer to an integrated wastewater treatment system and an agroforestry system closely related one to each other. You can see in the center of the slide, Hydro 1 consists of a wastewater treatment system which combines anaerobic treatment with nature-based systems and disinfection, able to produce a treated effluent with appropriate quality depending on the needs of the agroforestry system for irrigation or fertigation. The excess sludge
רותם מש חמודה, אני באמצע הכנס,
after being treated in a sludge drying reed bed system.
בסדר, אני מוותר על זה, טוב?
Sorry, there is some noise here.
מצטער מתוקן, נדבר יותר מאוחר.
There is someone interfering with his voice. Please mute yourself.
So what I was saying is that the excess sludge from an anaerobic system after being treated in a sludge drying reed bed system is mixed with green biomass from the agroforestry and then undergoes composting. You can see the synergy. So we see that in the integration of both demo systems can stand as a completely circular solution, we hope so, where water, nutrients, and the produced sludge are being recycled for agricultural purposes. The system targets to nutrients recycling through fertigation of more than 10,000 cubic meters of treated water per year and a compost production of more than 10 tons on an annual basis. By doing so, a total of 3 tons of fertilizers equivalent from fertigation and compost can be recycled, which is more than double of the annual needs. I go to the next slide. Just before closing, we commenced operation a couple of months ago. Just a few photos. On the left, you can see an aerial photo from our anaerobic first stage treatment unit, which is a dual upflow anaerobic sludge bioreactor with a total effective volume of 46 cubic meters. And on the right, you can see the two-stage vertical flow constructed wetlands. In the upper case, it's the saturated one, and in the other case, downside, it's a biodiverse unsaturated one. Just before closing, I should say that depending on the needs of the plants in the agroforestry system, we can switch the mode and alter the mode of wastewater treatment in order to promote either irrigation or fertigation. That's basically all from my side. Christian, thank you very much.
Thank you. So the next presentation will be on the comparison of commercially produced struvite in Europe, presented by Mark Spiller for the project SUSVERT.
Yeah, hello, I hope you hear me. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak here. Yes, I will tell you about the project SUSVERT, and within that project we carried out this systematic overview of different struvites that are commercially produced in Europe, and all the research that I'm going to present here is just, of course, a small part of it. You can access through this publication here on the right-hand side. And here's the graphical abstract. So what did we do? In an effort, we collected 25 samples. And then in the end, there's one sample double, so it's 24. We sampled one company twice from municipal struvites as well as industrial struvites, mainly agri-food struvites. And then compared those characteristics, chemical, physical, and biological characteristics to available regulation in the new fertilizer regulation that was already mentioned earlier, and did then these comparisons as well as a number of plant tests on these struvites. We also not only looked at things that are regulated, but we also looked at some of the morphologies, etc., that are maybe not regulated. So we went a little bit beyond, but with the objective to see whether in the common market in Europe, struvite could be an alternative or meets those requirements newly set. Next slide, please. So I will only give you a short overview here and not talk about everything. Of course, looking mainly at the chemical quality here. So the good news is that most of the struvite samples contain really good amounts of phosphorus, close to the theoretical level of 12.6% P in the dry weight, and only 12 of the samples deviated more than 3% from that. However, one sample only fails the limit for P of deviating more than 7% from that limit. So one sample would be out within that regulation. For the carbon content, for which we see also the results below here, there are 3 samples that fail the legal limit of maximum of 3% organic carbon in the dry weight. And you see these are the samples here from these 3 companies. I don't want to name and shame right here, but I can tell you that these were very early installations, and this Untitled process has also outperformed itself in the development. So I can tell you that these are one of the earliest installations. The heavy metal content, we also looked into that. There was all below the prescribed limits. Zinc was somewhat elevated. I don't show you the data, but you can access them through the paper. There's a small mistake here. This should read tons phosphorus in EU struvite. So we found that based on estimations of what we learned, that between 1,250 to 1,350 tons of European P in struvite per year meets the legal limits, and therefore can be used as a secondary raw material. Next slide, please. You already saw on the previous slide already, maybe something I didn't mention, that we make a distinction in our research between different types of struvites, those that come from a digestate, those that come from the watering liquor of digestate, and those that come from a USB effluent that are mainly from potato wastewater that you see in that figure also here. That's important because we see also a little bit of a difference between those struvites, as you can see in the figure. So those that are coming from a digestate, so that are directly made and precipitated on the digestate, they have this typical orthorhombic shape, really looking like a crystal. And those other ones that are coming more from the dewatering liquid, especially those and some of those that come from USB effluent, they are looking really nicely granular, so like you would like to have it almost for a fertilizer. And based on this, the second point, we are here concluded also in this research that, well, some of those struvites that belong to the what we call type 2 here, and some of those from type 3 could be used rather for blending into another applications, while the struvites that are rather small and below 1 millimeter would be used rather for other applications. We found also that a couple of struvites have failed the maximum limit that was proposed in one of the Strubius documents of maximum 10%.
Your time's up.
Yes, okay. But that was the overview. You can see more of it in the paper.
Thank you. So the next presentation will be held by Hanna Kilonen from Finland to present on peer recovery from industrial wastewaters.
Okay, hello everyone. And I also want to thank you the opportunity to tell about our nutrient project, which is resource-wise nutrient recovery from industrial wastewater or process waters. So we are dealing with industrial waters, and they are mining, energy, pulp and paper. And it is a 2 years project, started just recently and financed nationally in Finland. So Business Finland is the main financer, but also VTT, University of Oulu, and industry has financed the project. I think we have gathered quite good composition of companies to the project. So it is covering the whole nutrient value chain, starting from wastewater producers, technology suppliers, manufacturers of nutrient products, and end users. And our target actually is not, the main target is not the nutrient recovery, but it is really the focus is the wastewater purification and pure water production. But because in every case, we will produce concentrates, and they need to be either utilized or they need to be safely deposited. So that is really the main issue in this project. And when we are talking about nutrients, we are talking about nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, calcium, and magnesium. And we are using technologies which are at the quite high technology readiness level, but since we are producing new innovative concepts, the technology readiness level is not that high. And what we are targeting to is not really the fertilizers mainly, but it is mainly alternative chemicals for industry. And there I can mention as an example of adhesives, for example. We are actually trying to make products which can be used first at the site they are produced, but of course other possibilities and markets are searched. I don't have results right now, but I hope that I can show them later on to you. You can follow up following our web pages, which are just recently built up. So the address is 3ws.typki, which is our short name of the project.
Thank you. Your
.fi.
time is up, so I think everyone can read it.
Yes,
so
okay,
I have to be a bit brutal, so we are quite slow.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry for that, but all the others also.
But the address is not there, so that is the reason why I wanted to tell it to you.
Okay.
But please.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Take a look.
So the next presentation will be on the Run for Life project, presented by Nicolas Morales Pereira.
Good morning. So good morning, I'm Nicolas Morales, member of the Innovation and Technology Department of Aqualia. Here presenting the segregated collection and the centralized treatment for resource recovery as is proposed by the H2020 project Run for Life. In the project, we want to change the conventional, centralized and linear domestic wastewater treatment for a more circular approach based on decentralized treatment at the source. So we want to separate at the source black water, kitchen waste, grey water, in order to apply technologies that allow us to recover more resources from that wastewater. And for doing that, we also develop some innovative technologies and new business models. In the project, we also have to take into account that we need to break barriers to achieve a good implementation, to achieve a market uptake, social and legal acceptance. So we want to apply something similar to the waste segregation to the wastewater treatment and doing this segregation and decentralization. So next slide. Here we can see a general flow chart. So we have a segregation of streams in the buildings, in homes, in new areas. Apply technologies based on anaerobic process to recover the energy to the concentrated streams, the black water, the kitchen waste, and then technologies to recover the nutrients from the effluent of the anaerobic processes. To the grey water, as this is a stream with a low concentration of pollutants, we can reclaim that water for toilet flushing, for process industry uses, and also for irrigation. So we develop also technologies to increase the concentration of black water as the use of ultra low vacuum toilets that use only 0.5 liters per flush or even low. So this is the general flow chart. Next slide. Here we can see some of the products that I included only the most related with the phosphorus in the 4 demo sites in the project. So in Helsingborg, the NPK pellets, that is a combination of the water, food waste sludge from anaerobic digester, struvite, ammonium sulfate, and commercial potassium chloride in form of pellets. In Ghent, struvite using the no-resist process and also phosphoric acid, but by an off-site euphoric processes. In SNIC, using a hyperthermophilic anaerobic digestion, only in one step.
Nicholas, your time is up. Please speak up.
So this are the products from SNIC and in vivo struvite from process from Qualia and water for fertirrigation. And that's the product. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next presentation will be held by Luca Loregian on sustainable waste management and resource recovery from hydrothermal gasification of sludge. Floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Really glad to introduce you to this newly funded project. This is a collaboration between us, the University of Applied Science in Basel, Muttens, and Triatec, a company from Lausanne. So we are both based in Switzerland. Triatec collaborated with PSI for the development of these technologies that is based on the hydrothermal gasification of sewage sludge. So this project has been recently funded by the Federal Office for the Environment. We're also very glad to have Ludwig Hermann from Proman part of the team. Next slide, please. And so this is the overlook on the project. This is in black. You can see what is been already established and developed by Triatec. And so by the means of hydrothermal gasification, they can process digested and undigested sewage sludge to generate biogas. So biogas is the main product of the process, but there are some side stream that still contain valuable resources. And this is the case of processed water, which contain ammonia, and the wet solids that come after the processing of the sewage sludge. These wet solids are very high in phosphorus, and this is why we are teaming up to recover phosphorus. So we are currently looking at different potential routes to recover phosphorus. We'll be looking at struvite precipitation or phosphoric acid and phosphoric acid production. And that's it. Next slide. I will thank you for your attention. I have my contact details in case you have further question. Thank you very much.
Also for keeping time quite nicely. So next presentation will be on live drive for gas presented by Felipe Bastida. So you got 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I am Felipe Bastida, researcher at CSIC in Spain. Drive for Gas is a live project that proposes an environmental sustainable technology for the management and reuse of seawater solutes. This approach integrates a solar drying system, a thermochemical gasification process, and an energy recovery system. As a result, a dried sludge and different acids are produced, which are intended to be agronomically recycled in order to improve soil quality and fertility. In particular, total phosphorus content in the dried solute is about 2%, and its content in the acids ranges between 0.6 to 5%. In order to compare the effectiveness of solutes and acids for the promotion of soil fertility, quality, and crop production, different treatments of acids and solutes were applied in a grapefruit orchard in southeast Spain. We also include struvite treatments with the aim to compare the effectiveness regarding phosphorus content and soil fertility. This assay was implemented last February, and we will be monitoring soil chemical, physical, and microbiological soil properties in combination with plant properties such as those related with plant ecophysiology and production in the coming 2 years. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So the next presentation will be on value waste, a glimpse into peer recovery, presented by Ayman Anwar of Noursis.
Thank you, Christian. And I'll be talking about phosphorus recovery from bio-waste. So the project that we're talking about is value waste. It is one of the Horizon 2020 projects. And the concept of value waste is that it is one of the first complete solutions to fully valorize the urban waste to recover energy and nutrients in the form of food, feed, and bio-based fertilizers. I would like to call it as state of the art, as the urban waste is completely used as a raw resource in a chain of processes to produce these high value products that have multiple economic, social, and environmental benefits. Next slide, please. So this project is implemented in 2 municipalities in Europe. The municipality I will be talking about is in Murcia, Spain. So different partners combine their pilot unit to sink in the process. So it starts with the collection of bio-waste, which is 4 tons per day, and it is selective collection that is very important for quality control. And then it is fed to an anaerobic digester at the rate of 4 tons per day. And the methane produced during the anaerobic process is fed to the methanotrophic bacteria to produce the microbial protein, and then the digestate is dewatered, and the dewatered solid fraction from the dewatered biosolids are fed to the black soldier fly which is used as an insect protein. And then the liquid fraction from the dewatering is rich in nutrients of nitrogen and phosphorus, which is then used to recover bio-based fertilizers. Next slide, please. So the NIRSIS process in general. So here you can see that on the right-hand side of our screen, you can see the pilot that is installed in Murcia. So the digestion process really helps to release the phosphorus and nitrogen from the solid phase to the water matrix, which is then extracted through the dewatering, and the liquor is very rich in orthophosphate and ammonium nitrogen concentrations. For this particular project, our installation consists of a stripper and a crystallization reactor. So the stripper is fed at a rate of 1 cubic meters per hour, and the stripper helps to strip off the carbon dioxide, which helps to raise the pH, and then the water enters into the crystallization reactor where the magnesium ion is dosed, and through pH control we are able to precipitate out the struvite. And so to discuss the progress so far, we are already working to optimize the dewatering of the digestate to increase the level of orthophosphate and ammonium in the liquor, so that we can start the production of struvite, which is expected to be 2 to 2.5 kilograms per day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayman. So the next presentation will also be on peer recovery from industrial waters, the project Water to Return, presented by Pilar Zapata.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thanks a lot for the introduction. I would like to talk a little bit about Water to Return, which is an Horizon 2020 innovation action, and we treat wastewater from the slaughterhouses and extract the nutrients contained in there to further manufacture agronomic products. This way, we try to somehow turn the wastewater treatment facilities included in the slaughterhouses into biorefineries. So this is a system. There are 3 treatment lines plus an energy recovery module, and all of them work in cascade. So we take the wastewater from the slaughterhouse that goes directly to the water line. There we treat the wastewater with an SBR, and afterwards with a filtration unit. So we obtain, like, let's say 3 materials: treated water on the one hand, sludge on the other hand, that is going to feed the following treatment line, and a concentrate of nutrients, which is going to be the first secondary raw material to further manufacture the first agronomic product, which is going to be a fertilizer. Then the sludge coming from the SBR feeds the sludge lime. There it is going to be fermented together with bacillus, and we are going to obtain a hydrolyzed sludge that is going to constitute the secondary raw material to further manufacture a biostimulant. Then part of this sludge goes to the energy recovery module, where it will suffer the anaerobic digestion process, and we will obtain methane and CO2 that will be released and further captured by the third treatment line, which is the algae line. This CO2 is going to support the microalgae growth. So we are going to obtain the third secondary raw material, which is algal biomass, and it will be used for producing the third agronomic product, which is going to be also a biostimulant. So next slide, please. This is the aspect our system has. It has been built in a real slaughterhouse, which is called Matadero del Sur. It is located in Salteras, which is a municipality nearby Seville in Andalusia, Spain. It treats 50 cubic meters of flow per day out of the 150 cubic meters that the slaughterhouse produces per day. This is because it is a demonstration project, and therefore we cannot do it at a real scale. Next slide, please. The key innovation and results will be the integrated treatment system or the separated treatment lines, because the system is modular and is very flexible. This means it is possible to adapt it to different kind of industries, use only part of the treatment lines, etc. It's also highly replicable because it's flexible and it can be adapted to other food industries. And the other key innovation results are obviously the secondary raw materials and the agronomic products I have been mentioning before. So the business opportunities. Oh, yeah, no, simply the business opportunities in this case is for these two sectors, slaughtering industry and also farming. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
So the next presenter will be Leon Corving of VETSOS, and he will present two projects, vivianite and water mining, and you get 5 minutes in total. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. First I will present vivianite. Vivianite is a new approach to recover phosphorus from sewage treatment plants that dose iron coagulants for phosphorus removal. The advantage of the process is that it can have high recovery efficiencies of over 50% of the influent phosphorus, and it reduces 10 to 20% of the sludge volume. The principle is based on the finding that in these sewage treatment plants where iron is dosed, that vivianite is the main phosphate-bearing precipitate in the digested sludge, and up to 70 to 90% of all phosphorus in the sludge can be present as vivianite, and we can use wet magnetic separators to recover the vivianite from the sludge. We've demonstrated this in the vivianite project at a scale of 1 cubic meter per hour at a pilot facility at the sewage treatment plant of Breda in the Netherlands. Next slide. So this slide shows the principle behind the magnetic separator. So we use magnetic separators that have been used in the mining industry for centuries. These magnetic separators consist of a wheel that is dipped into the sludge and is then magnetized. This wheel consists of a lot of rods that are then magnetized, and the vivianite sticks to these rods. The rods are then transported by the wheel outside the magnetic field and can then be easily flushed off from the magnetic wheel again and recovered. To the right, you see a picture, an image of these crystals that we recover. Typically, they're in the size of around 100 micrometers. And the small image also shows the magnetic properties of the vivianite. Next slide. So in this pilot testing, we've shown that we can get 80% of recovery of the vivianite. So that's the orange dot in the graph with this pilot installation. So that means that 80% of the vivianite that's present in the sewage sludge we can get out with the magnet. The purity of the recovered vivianite is 70%, so 30% is other material. But this other material can be easily washed off by a washing process, and then we can get up to 90% purity of the vivianite concentrate that we make. And overall, we can recover 60% from the sewage influent. There's something wrong with the picture, but normally 90% of your phosphorus goes to your sludge digester. Of that 90%, 80% is present as vivianite, and 80% of that again can be recovered as by the magnetic separator. So overall you have 60% recovery efficiency. Vivianite can be used in the short term as an iron fertilizer to treat iron chlorosis in plants. On the longer term, we envision a splitting of the iron and phosphate so that we can reuse the iron again to bind the phosphate, and we get a water-soluble fertilizer. And we are now scaling up the project together with the partners. Next slide, which is about the next new project, which is part of the larger water mining project, which is a big EU H2020 finance project with 38 partners over 12 countries that focus on 5 different case studies. And the water mining project aims at resource recovery from various water streams, so desalination, urban wastewater, and industrial wastewater. As VETSOS, we will look at applying reversible phosphate adsorption to achieve ultra-low phosphorus removal. So we use adsorption to really go down to 40 ppb of phosphate effluent. Using these adsorbents, the special about the approach is that we are able to regenerate the adsorbent in line, and in that way you get a concentrated phosphate, liquid phosphate recovery product that can be used as a fertilizer. And it also allows the reuse of the adsorbent over and over again. And this is important because at these low phosphate concentrations, you have quite low loadings of the adsorbent. We will be testing this in a 1 cubic meter per hour pilot facility for 1 year on Cyprus and 1 year in Spain, to demonstrate a removal down to 40 ppb. The main reason to remove the phosphorus to these low levels are twofold. First of all, you need to go to these low levels to prevent algae blooms. And the second reason is that you can also prevent biofouling in subsequent, for instance, desalination steps. That are my 2 projects.
Thank you, Leon, and thanks for getting us some time. So the next presentation will be held by Marlena Small from Polish Academy of Sciences, and she will present on monitoring of water and sewage management in the context of the circular economy implementation aspects. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Christian. It's some time that we've met first time. So today I would like to present our project, which is a little bit different from the technological projects because it's the project which focuses on the collaboration for the circular economy in water and wastewater sector. Next slide, please. So the project is financed by the Polish National Agency for the Academic Exchange. We have the international partners from Belgium, Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, and Estonia. The main objective of the project is quite holistic because it's the development of the circular economy monitoring framework for European water and wastewater sector, and we conduct our research based on the 4 approaches. First, the identification and assessment of the potential for the transformation in our water and sewage sector, exchange of good practices, and I have to say that here we've been affected by the coronavirus pandemic because our first event and a lot of events from last year and this year needed to be cancelled, mainly the study visits in the very nice places where the circular economy cases were already implemented, for example, phosphorus recovery plants. Developing a monitoring framework, this is the main objective of this project. Next slide, please. And here I would like to present what we have done until now from this perspective of the monitoring framework. And this is the scheme which is based on the waste hierarchy in water and wastewater sector, adapted to the water and wastewater sector with the 2 stages, waste prevention and waste processing. We have different stages. First, we start with reduce, after removal, reuse, recycling, and the most interesting from the current event is recovery of resources, including the nutrients, including the phosphorus. So for the phosphorus, what we are doing, that's the identification of pH waste, because as you can see, we in project, we have basically the Baltic Sea countries, and here we would like to provide a specific database with the waste which could be treated, could be used for the recovery of phosphorus. Best practices for the recovery of phosphorus, assessment of the peer recovery potential, and identification and development of peer-related indicators, which could be comparable between different technologies and different projects. And in our project, we have also we are organizing the summer schools, workshops, seminars, and 1 big conference next year. So please follow our webpage. This year we organized the winter school for students, which will take place, I hope, in Poland in November. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marlena. So the next presentation will be held by Marie-Edith Plateau to present the Phos4U project. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Christian. I'm Marie-Edith Plateau from the German Water Board Emscher Genossenschaft ein Lieferverband. Phosphorus, an Interreg project dealing with the recovery of phosphorus from wastewater treatment. And it started in 2016 and finishing this year. We have our final conference on 22 and 23rd of September in Essen and also online. So we have concentrated our efforts on the development of processes and products to prepare the deployment of phosphorus recycling in urban, but also in rural areas. Next slide, please. So here are the different products and processes that have been demonstrated for large-scale applications. So you can see that to produce phosphoric acid, we have tested sewage sludge ashes with the TetraPhos process, the PARPhos process, and the PhosphoLife process. To produce phosphate salts in different forms, can be hydroxyapatite, but also calcium phosphate and other kind of phosphate. We have tested the Struvia plant of Veolia optimized with bioacidification steps, as well as the Pulse plant, which has been developed in Belgium by the University of Liège. The both processes are using sewage sludge as input material. The last product in this slide is sewage sludge ashes with bioavailable phosphorus, and those ashes are produced with the Phosphorus process, which also use sewage sludge as an input and which is a thermochemical treatment. Next slide, please. Further on, for more rural and isolated area, we have focused on the development of processes that are more aiming at achieving a phosphorus elimination, but we wanted to have processes that make a product that is directly usable on soil as a fertilizing product. So here we have had the demonstration of three recovery processes. One is the microalgae reactor using Chlamydomonas acidophilus and producing a microalgae biomass. The second one is a FiltraFlow P using crab carapace material to produce a pH-rich biomass. And the last one is a downscaling of the Struvia process using the effluent of the wastewater treatment plant to produce calcium phosphate. All processes undergoes life cycle assessment, and all product undergoes a large quality assessment done by the different partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie-Edith. And yeah, microalgae was already a takeover for the next presentation. So Tania Fernandez will present on microalgae technology for nutrient removal and recovery. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm a scientist at the Netherlands Institute of Ecology, and I lead a group on microalgae bacteria interactions for wastewater treatment focused on nutrient recovery. And here you already have an idea of the systems that we work with. I will start just by giving an idea what is our focus within my group, and also focus then on the talk in one project specifically. Next slide, please. So we work, our idea is to recover all the resources from the wastewater. We focus mostly on carbon, macro elements, and also micro elements. We work with all sorts of wastewater from sewage, diluted sewage, the normal sewage, and concentrated black water. These varying concentrations of nitrogen from 100 to 1,400 milligrams per liter. And also concentrations of phosphate from 10 to 100 milligrams of phosphate per liter. We grow microalgae in closed photobioreactors, all sorts of closed bioreactors, where we find removal rates from 20 to 160 milligrams of nitrogen per liter per day, and 3 to 30 milligrams of phosphate per liter per day. The idea is to be able to produce a fertilizer that we can use to enrich our soils, not only of the carbon and the macronutrients, but also the essentials, microelements. In our systems, we also look at pharmaceutical removal and pathogen removal. Of course, due to the time limitation, I will focus only on the nutrients. And next slide, please. And here is where I want to focus on this project. So this is the Lotus HR, is a collaboration between several universities in the Netherlands and in India, especially in New Delhi, where we have pilot reactors running. And in this project, we have developed photogranules. Basically, this is a combination of algae and bacteria. They produce EPS, both of them, and they create a sort of a matrix. It's a kind of a glue, and they form this nice photogranule that has a syntrophic relationship, these organisms. So the phototrophs produce the oxygen needed for the heterotrophs, and the heterotrophs produce the CO2 needed for the phototrophs. So you actually do not need to aerate. And because it is in a granular form, it's easy to harvest. So you have growth and harvest in one photobioreactor with no aeration needed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tanya. The next presentation will be on FlashPhos, presented by Dominic Leverance. Floor is yours.
Christian, today I want to present the FlashPhos project, which is part also of the European Horizon 2020 program and recently started in May last month, 2021. The focus on the FlashPhos project is the complete thermochemical recycling of sewage sludge. Next slide, please. And in the next 4 years, the focus is on using the sewage sludge and develop a FlashPhos process with the aim to generate white phosphorus, but also side products that can be used as marketable products, such as alternative cement binder or iron alloy, or heavy metal concentrates for industry, and gaseous fuel for the industrial applications. The main processes, or the core processes, are the drying and grinding of the sewage sludge, the high temperature flash gasification to produce the white phosphorus, and to generate a climate-friendly cement. Some project tasks are, for example, important project tasks are the integration of the FlashPhos into the cement production process, but also into European sludge waste and phosphorus markets. The ecological and socio-economic impacts are also assessed, and we expect that with the FlashPhos project, we can contribute for the growing independence from the European Union of unreliable phosphorus supply chains by increased circular economy. We also expect to save climate impacts such as CO2 by climate-friendly cement production. Next slide, please. In the project, several scientific and industrial partners along Europe from countries such as Germany, Italy, Austria, Belgium, and Spain are involved. For further information, you have here the contact details of the coordinators, Matthias Rapp and Max Schmid from University of Stuttgart. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dominic. The next presentation will be the project Next Gen, presented by Anders Nettop.
Thank you, Christian. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can still absorb some more information. The Next Gen project is about the next generation water system and services for the circular economy. In the infographic here, you see the circles, the nexus that we are studying. On the one hand, saving energy and also water as resources, but more relevant today is the nutrients and materials. And there we have quite a few technologies on nitrogen recovery and phosphorus recovery. The project has 10 demonstration sites all over Europe. We demonstrate about 30 technologies. We received Horizon 2020 funding for about 10 million euros. And we are now soon into the 4th year of the project. It will run until mid next year. So next slide, please. Here you see the technologies for nutrients in the project. On the one hand, phosphorus recovery technologies in red and nitrogen recovery technologies in blue. You see also the TRL. We are starting with some technologies still in the lab, and the most advanced technologies like ammonia stripping is already in serial production. So you see also a picture of this installation in Braunschweig to the right, a big stripping column. These different technologies are demonstrated at 5 different sites that you see on the left. And you see also a picture of our photobioreactor with the purple bacteria, bottom left. And we also consider the products coming out. To answer your question, you see here a product from the PK fertilizer production that we have in Altenrhein in Switzerland. So these are some examples, and you can consult our website, of course, for more information. Next slide, please. Many results are still coming up. We have now the sites basically up and running, and we will assess all these technologies with life cycle assessment, cost efficiency analysis, and also the products will be submitted to chemical risk analysis for contaminants. This will flow into a technology evidence base, which will have fact sheets with description of the technology, requirements for using it, advantages, key performance indicators, and lessons learned from case studies. Also legal and regulatory info and references. So keep a lookout for that. Will be coming the coming year. And thank you from our side.
Thank you, Anders. So the next presentation will come from Finland by Kati Blomberg to present the RecoPhos approach developed by HSY.
Hey, and thanks very much for having us here. So my name is Kati Blomberg, and today I will be telling you about RecoPhos process, which is an innovative nutrient recovery technology applied for wastewater. So next slide, please. So since 2015, HSY has been developing nutrient recovery process called RecoPhos. And the main driver for this is that we want to be able to recover and utilize the nutrients also in the future. Our process enables the recovery of phosphorus as phosphoric acid, which can be then further processed into ammonium phosphate. And the current technical readiness is estimated to be on level 5 or 6 out of maximum 9. And in 2019, RecoPhos demo plant with PE of 1000 was built in the Viikinmäki wastewater treatment plant in Finland. The next slide, please. So the basics of RecoPhos, how does it work then? In the RecoPhos process, the phosphorus is recovered only in the effluent wastewater. So contrary to any conventional co-precipitation, in RecoPhos process, no precipitation whatsoever is applied prior or in the biological treatment. The phosphorus is in the effluent water is separated in post-precipitation steps, such as disk filtration. And the chemical sludge that is produced there in the filtration is then further processed in order to separate the phosphorus. In here, the following step includes dissolution with phosphoric acid. And here we produce metal phosphate solution for the following recovery step. And in the recovery step, we separate the phosphoric acid as the first end product with the solvent extraction process. And in here, as product, we will have a surplus of phosphoric acid, and therefore we're also able to create internal chemical recirculation. In addition, we will also recover some of the precipitation chemical that will be recirculated back to the chemical sludge production step. At the end of this, we're able to recover from 50 to over 60% of the total influent phosphorus of the plant. And also just to mention that there are a couple of advantages to the Ravita process, as there is no need for sludge incineration or digestion. And the process itself is also size neutral, so it fits all kinds of wastewater treatment plants. And it enables nutrient harvesting and maximizes the phosphorus recovery. And we're also able to create chemical recirculation, which is important from the operational cost point of view. So thanks very much for listening.
Thank you, Kati. So the last presentation will be given by Bradley Kennedy on urine processing with freeze concentration.
Hi, good morning. And thanks for the invitation. We're actually located in the US, but we were invited to talk a little bit about what we do here in Vermont in the Northeast US. So it's great to be here quite early in the morning. Rich Earth Institute is an NGO. We were founded in 2012 as a grassroots community urine recycling program. So we still operate that community scale program. We have about 200 volunteers who donate about 40,000 liters of urine to us every year, which we pasteurize and use as fertilizer on local farms. But we've grown a lot, so that program serves as a research platform for many different types of research that we do here. We've done pharmaceutical research looking at fate and uptake. We do a lot of social research, we do agronomic research, and our main focus at the moment, which is technology development. Next slide, please. So we currently have a spin-off company that's working under a grant from the National Science Foundation to develop this building scale urine treatment system. So we're working in the decentralized source separated wastewater space. The idea behind this system is to automate our community scale program so that our program can be replicated in other parts of the country or the world. Basically, the system is installed in the basement of a building. It collects and processes all of the urine from the building and produces a ready-to-use fertilizer. So no additional treatment is needed. It can be taken directly to the farm. There's 4 treatment steps. It starts with acidification to prevent mineralization in the fixtures and the plumbing. It's then pasteurized using an energy-efficient pasteurizer to meet the US EPA regulations for biosolids. We concentrate it using freeze concentration, and then we have an optional filtration stage. So we originally intended this system to be used for urine, but we're now working on expanding it to be used for source separated black water in combination with anaerobic digestion for more complete nutrient recovery and to offer a full sanitation solution to the buildings that we're working with. Okay, next slide, please. So the most innovative part of what we're working on is the freeze concentrator. We originally started with reverse osmosis and we had a lot of trouble with membrane fouling, so that's why we moved to freeze concentration. And basically, the way that it works is when you freeze a solution, the first part that freezes is pure water, and then as it gets colder, the solution gets more and more concentrated. And the way to make this energy efficient is to be moving the heat across a really low temperature differential. So we have 2 alternating chambers, one freezing and one thawing. So the heat difference between them is very low. They're both close to 0. And it will never be quite as efficient as reverse osmosis, but it's a lot more efficient than what most people think about when you think about freezing and thawing. So feel free to get in touch with us if you have any questions. We have 2 prototypes of the system, one at our research center in Vermont and another one at the University of Michigan.
What are the products?
The product is a concentrated liquid fertilizer. So it's basically just, instead of taking the nutrients out, we take the water out. So everything all the nutrients are in the products. And then we had the filtration stage to remove pharmaceuticals if necessary.
Okay, thank you, Bradley. So that's the end of the session, so to say. And yeah, my conclusion is that a lot of technologies are there And yes, we can recover nutrients. Of course, the scale is also pretty broad. So from, let's say, a few kilos or tons per year up to several thousand tons. So that's what we see. And so there's still a strong technology focus. That's what I notice. And what I'm a bit missing still is really the link to the market for the recovered materials. But of course, that's if you have a project with a limited budget and limited duration, then of course you cannot cover everything. But let's hope that the Commission and the funding programs will consider this crucial part of, let's say, the value chains, or in future terms, the value cycles as well. And having said that, I would like to thank you for this very, let's say, dense program of this morning. So 22 presentations in just 1.25 hours. So that's pretty kind of speed dating. So, but I hope at least every one of you got the key messages, and of course there will be a kind of after show. So the key questions will be forwarded to the speakers for direct answering. So Bertrand, do you have some closing words from your end?
I noticed a bit the categories of the project. So what I will put on the slide is that yes, it's very active. We have different technologies and different products that are looked at, but there are some projects looking at value chain integration. So this is or communication and improving the communication in between the stakeholders. And we will put probably all the project linked somewhere in the minutes of the workshop, I guess.
Thank you, and also thanks to Giulio for being a very professional host. And I think we are now suspected to go back to the main session for the closing, let's say, presentations. Thank you all.
Thanks, Christian. You're right. You can all go back to the main room and wait for the session to restart again at 2 o'clock.